With Kashin Koji being reintroduced back to the story and stuff, do you guys think that he's going to suffer the same fate as Jiraiya in 2BV, or will he receive his own fate? Like, will he go down his own path?
Yeah, well, I think he's gonna have his own fate. I think that right there is probably gonna happen. But I think Kashin Koji is too smart to let happen what Jiraiya let happen. Jiraiya had a chance to leave, he didn't. Kashin Koji took the chance to leave.
Oh
He
yeah,
like
Kashin Koji going to retreat quick.
yeah, yeah, he took that chance expeditiously. But for the
Mhm.
overall thought, do I think Kashin Koji could possibly sacrifice himself for the good of the village or for the good of the planet? I think that's definitely a possibility. The only thing, however, would be I don't really know how strong Kashin Koji is, and I don't know how strong like something like that would, or how effective something like that would actually be. Like I personally believe Kashin Koji is like one of the strongest characters. I think a lot of you guys probably believe like I kind of overrate Kashin Koji because he did block Ishigotsuki's punch. But I think that once Kashin Koji like, or once that moment appears, I
It's
think a
not
lot of
just
the
that.
villains are
It's
probably
just
gonna
that
like.
your only feat that you give him. You don't never throw anything else out. But anyways, that's it.
There's a couple more, but whenever the time appears for him to like kind of like sacrifice himself, I think everybody's going to be like significantly stronger than Kashin Koji. I think Kashin Koji is going to be like good for part one of Boruto, but I think a lot of the characters are probably going to be like significantly surpass him. And if he does sacrifice himself, it'll have to be like some crazy trump card, like some Barry level trump card or something like that. Where now, all right, now he sacrifices himself.
So you don't think that Kashin Koji could have got any stronger with the 3 years? You think it's like impossible for him to increase his
Not,
strength because he's a
no, I
cyborg?
think it's no, I think that's possible. But I think even with him getting stronger, I just don't necessarily see him being as strong as like let's say the Shinju when they are fully formed, or even like a Boruto, Kawaki, Damon. I think there's going to be tiers to it. You could possibly say like maybe it's like a Kashin Koji before he got the DMS. Like Kashin Koji was still relatively strong, but at the very end, like there wasn't much Kashin Koji could actually not Kakashi. There wasn't much Kakashi could actually do.
Yeah, I hear you. But do you think that he's not at least relative to Boruto right now, being that
Right
he is his
now,
master?
right now, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that like that's completely out off the pale, but like in like the next two volumes, do I think they're going to be equal? Absolutely not. I think Boruto and Kawaki are probably going to have like multiple more power ups before they actually do fight, and that fight in itself, I don't necessarily think that's going to be like close to the end of the series.
I don't think the strength of Koji would be relevant
Mhm.
in any capacity. It would just be, does he share the same fate as Jiraiya? I don't. In some ways, Jiraiya's strength wasn't really relevant versus pain. Outside of like the obvious, he wasn't strong enough to live type of thing, but or in like the introduction of like a brand new form or something of the sort. But um, no, I don't think the power stuff would really be the way I would go. I would just more so look at it from a narrative perspective. And I could definitely see it, Jiraiya being the master of Naruto, and then him kind of going out against like the new introduced villain or something of the sort, versus like a Kashin Koji who seems to be the master of Boruto. Maybe taught him some flying Raijin or something of the sort when he was sneaking around in Konoha. At least in the anime, that's not really in the manga too much, if I don't recall. But that aside, yeah, it looks like he's the one that's kind of being like the master to Boruto now, so he could die to the new villain that's introduced. So I could definitely see some narrative themes there. I don't I mean, he killed Jiraiya off pretty, I would say, early, in my opinion, that being Kishimoto. So I'm not sure he wants to kind of like run that back, and maybe he's working through Kashin Koji, and he wants to do for that character what he originally maybe
Wanted
intended
to,
for Jiraiya,
right, right.
or maybe just like an alternative path, right? Like, hey, we can keep this character around this time around. So I think that could be cool, but I can definitely see it either way. But I would approach it from a narrative perspective more so than just like a power perspective. But yeah,
Right.
that's just my thoughts on it.
One of the things that I'm kind of like weary about, especially with Kashin Koji and him potentially dying, in part one, we had this thing where it's like, yo, Kashin Koji has to beat Naruto. He has to meet. It was like a necessity. Naruto gets sealed. Kashin Koji goes ghost for like 3 years. Everybody forgets about it. Kashin Koji comes back, and now it's maybe it's just subconscious. I don't think Naruto is going to be sealed like any unsealed anytime soon. And for that meeting to actually happen, Kashin Koji still got to be alive. That's just me. Like I just want to see that meeting happen. And if it doesn't really happen, I think it's probably gonna be like a big letdown. But hypothetically, once Naruto does get unsealed, I don't necessarily think that the power is going to be where his sacrifice is going to matter. Now I get where you're coming from. I think one of the big things that Jiraiya actually did, one of the big reasons why he did sacrifice himself, it wasn't really just because he thought he could possibly beat Pain. He wanted to get the intel. I don't think that Kashin Koji is that type of character, to be honest, man. I think Kashin Koji is just more of like he's more of like an assassin type of character. Like I don't know how to explain it. Kashin Koji is more serious than Jiraiya. Like, I don't know how to explain
but he was more on collecting information too. If you remember in the anime, he snuck into the village to go to the library to retrieve something for Amino. So he is more, and he was watching, spying on Boruto and Kawaki, and he was the one who brought back to Jigen that their karma seals was resonating and stuff like that. So he is a stealthy type of, information gatherer, if you want to give him that. So I do think that, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I just feel like he's more skilled. Like I don't think he die. Like Jiraiya dies in situations like that. Like, and I understand that, hey, he just died once. Jiraiya been on multiple information gathering missions. He you feel me? The what's called the Hidden Leaf Village pretty much used him like he was like Draymond Green or something like that back in the day. I understand that. I understand. But I feel like Kashin Koji is more precise with his moves. Kashin Koji is more perfected. Like Jiraiya dies versus Ishiki Otsuki if all stats are equal with him and Kashin Koji. Kashin Koji loses.
Well, I will say, well, just like two things. Well, actually, no, I don't care. Because I was gonna say, Free Game might have was a little bit off with what he said, but the gist of what he's saying, I think is still pretty solid. So I don't even care about.
Yeah, that's why I said I wasn't verbatim in it because I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something of that sort.
So I'm not even like be tedious with that. But that aside, I think maybe if you can consider Koji like a next generation character. I mean, outside the obvious, him appearing in the next generation spinoff, but. I mean, how old is Koji? Like at most, what, like 13 years old? I mean, he's like a clone Jiraiya. This has to be like what, post Shippuden? It's been like what, 13 years around there. So I mean, honestly, he's as odd as it seems, he's about the same age as Boruto, around there. Maybe even like Kawaki, maybe a little younger than Kawaki. In a weird way. So I would consider him to be like a new generation character. Outside the obvious, him appearing in Boruto Next Generations. So like one of the themes of the Naruto series is that like the next generation kind of builds off of what came before. So I would be surprised if he went out exactly like Jiraiya did, even just from a narrative perspective. Obviously, Pain isn't going to take out Kashin Koji, but I would be surprised if it happened, because then it'll be like just blatantly repeating what happened before. I don't think Kishimoto's that uninspired. But I do think it's a possibility that it might happen. And again, I think, just power wouldn't really factor. It's about what it means to be a ninja, right? It's like, yeah, he might be an assassin. He might move in those ways. But ultimately, he says that he's a shinobi. And his job is to be a tool. When you look at his motivations, he's obviously formulating a plan to fight, right? And he's working with Boruto, and Boruto's plan B was initially to go there and sneak attack the Ten Tails. Once that failed, he immediately tried to course correct and get Boruto out of there as quickly as possible. Right. So he's clearly all in. He's not just like some assassin, like rogue ninja shinobi thing that's only out for himself, right? Like the goal was, hey, take out Jigen. This is what I'm created to do. And then once that was like dealt with, he escaped and whatnot. But Ishiki, Jigen, they're no longer a threat, but now a new one has arose, and we know that his overall goal is to protect the world. And in the past, it just came in the form of Ishiki / Jigen. Now it comes in the form of the divine trees, or something that may lie beyond that. So he just seems to be like one of those guardian characters who wants to embody what it means to be a shinobi, which is like a tool. So a tool to be used to defend against great evil that may approach the world. Plus, he's like, a next generation character, so they won't buy into the same tropes. He can surpass his predecessor, which would be Jiraiya. It's like not really his father, but you get my point. and then
Yeah,
and yeah, something like that. But that's more so what I think. But yeah,
yeah, true. And I also think that Kashin Koji, after he completed his mission of beating Jigen, like you said, I think that possibly over the last 3 years, he probably felt like he had no purpose. Like, what's his purpose? And he finally found his purpose. And he did that by doing espionage, spying and stuff like that. Was probably most likely spying on Cold while he was developing the Ten Tails and the Claw Grimes and stuff like that. And that's why Boruto knows so much about him and the dangers of it and stuff like that. So I think Kashin Koji personally found his own path, and his path is going to be very different from Jiraiya, because I don't think that he wants to be Jiraiya. I think he wants to be Kashin Koji. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
like what they're trying to do is narratively different as well. Whereas, what Koji's trying to accomplish seems to be like a plan to fight back against X, Y, and Z, which is, so far a little bit more simplistic, where Jiraiya is trying to like reform an entire like societal structure, or like how the shinobi world is, which influences the rest of the world in this universe. So like the cycle of hatred and how to break that. And then he has to like pick the person who's going to do that, which is like a decision between two people at a certain point, Naruto or Nagato. So it's narratively, it's different. I would say Jiraiya is a little bit more sophisticated than Koji so far, but yeah, there's definitely some differences there. But I don't think he's gonna go out in the same way. I don't think so. But it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible.
What you think about it, Sanjay?
Well, first thing, shout out to Mello, the man, the myth, the dreamer.
Oh, what's up, man? So yeah, sorry I overslept. I apologize for that, guys. But
no pressure, no pressure. I also don't think it's going to be a case where Kashin Koji goes out like Jiraiya. I think what could potentially happen, or what probably is already happening, is that Kishi is going for like a nature versus nurture thing. And like Melo was saying, I don't think Kishimoto is going to be as uninspired to have him go out the same way, right? Probably might be a lead up to him going out the same way, and then he overcomes it and actually lives, kind of going through that with that same theme of nature versus nurture. Who you are as a person isn't like 100% determined by your genetics, even though that's what seemingly what Ishiki was trying to, imply when, Kashin Koji got revealed as a clone of Jiraiya and everything. So I don't think that's going to be the case. As a side note, I think it would be an interesting anime only arc to see, if we don't get it in flashbacks via the manga or through certain dialogue, to see Kashin Koji kind of come into his own, in terms of going on his own path, finding his purpose. Because like you guys were saying, maybe it's like he probably felt like he had no purpose after, losing to Ishiki. So what Ishiki did, probably did feel purposeless. So it would be interesting to see how he got to this point, which could be, an interesting set of material for anime only content. And as I would always say, the middle ground between letting the manga build up and getting content we actually want to see in the anime, qualitative content. So there's definitely that. To even just kind of touch on potential, power and how that can contribute. I think, there are a number of characters that are above Kashin Koji, but, compared to like some of the other like new gen persons, Kashin Koji is still above them. And depending on how Kishi plays his cards, there's definitely that path for, I think, Kashin Koji to become like a character beyond Jigen as well. Given that I think it's implied that Amado intentionally like made Kashin Koji like a cyborg weaker than Jigen. So depending on if Kashin Koji was still in contact with Amado in secret, or if they decide to bring in Orochimaru, they could easily make Kashin Koji another character beyond Jigen if they decide to go that route, if anything. But yeah, pretty much that.